An alien world, beyond our wildest imagination. And yet it seems strangely familiar. Its surface mirrors the landscapes we know from planet Earth. Dramatic canyons, arid deserts, rolling hills, dizzying cliffs, and impenetrable jungles. They are home to some of the strangest creatures imaginable. And there are swarms of them, countless hordes. This planet has more than 100 trillion inhabitants. You would imagine this strange world light years from planet Earth. But this alien planet is not some unknown orb in a remote corner of the universe. In fact, it's sometimes too close for comfort. This planet is you. Our eyes inform us of the world about us. They give us a clear picture of what the world is like. And we are part of that world. We see ourselves as persons, as individuals. But we are not what we think we are. We are something very different. 90% of the cells in our bodies aren't human. We are not just individual creatures, we are also whole ecosystems. Every human is a world of its own. We are like habitats with countless ecological niches. The surface of the human planet is populated by a fantastic variety of life forms. Your body is covered by just 2 square meters of skin. And yet, there are more microbes living there than there are human beings on the surface of the Earth. More than 1,000 different species of bacteria live on the skin of a human being. Every one of us is home to our very own unique collection of bacteria species. We are not only different in a genetic sense, even as an ecosystem, you are one of a kind. It is at night that many creatures come to life. The inhabitants that live on the surface of the human planet are also highly active during the hours of darkness. We still know very little about this invisible world of the human body. Scientists are constantly discovering new species. In the dense jungle that is our eyebrows and lashes, hides a creature that we all encounter in the course of our lives, but hardly anyone notices it. Demodex mites live in our hair follicles, where they feed on tallow and dead skin cells. They wait until nightfall before moving from one hair root to the next. At less than half a millimeter, these creatures are not easy to spot with the naked eye, but they can be found on most of us, and their number grows with age. In most cases, they are completely harmless and remain undetected for most of our lives, which is more than you can say about some other inhabitants. In past centuries, the life on our bodies was much more diverse. Merchants praised fabrics as lice-colored or bug-colored, as they supposedly hid the presence of our unwanted companions. Flea furs were supposed to lure the small bloodsuckers away from the body. Some people even wore artfully carved flea traps. From the age of the Baroque, the flea became a literary character, often with erotic undertones. In the early 17th century, a young French gallant allegedly caught a flea from his loved one. And locked it in a kind of reliquary, which he wore on a chain around his neck. Each day he fed the flea with his blood. This was believed to strengthen the bond between the two lovers. Today, we tend not to deal with pesky parasites in such a playful way. But there is one exception. Europe's last flea circus. Circus director Robert Björk has trained each of his artists for a very specific role. One is very good at juggling. Another scores goals with ease. Fleas are the most extreme athletes. They can lift 30 times their own weight and jump 100 times their own length. The ringmaster cares for his tiny circus stars. If they get exhausted, he places them on his arm where they can enjoy his blood. But most of the inhabitants of planet U don't depend on our goodwill. The reason for this is simple. We normally have no idea that they are there. At least as long as there is an equilibrium between useful and harmful organisms. We usually call this delicate state health. But the balance of power is very unstable. The smallest change can have dramatic consequences. And a bacterium weighing a trillionth of a gram can kill 100,000 gram human. But to become this dangerous, the bacterium has first to invade and multiply, and that's not easy. Everywhere on planet U, harmful microbe activities are restricted. Aliens landing on this planet are greeted by a multi-level defense system. Firstly, human skin is an impenetrable barrier for most intruders. The main reason is the structure of the upper skin cells. They form a hard, horn-like surface that protects against break-ins. In addition to this physical barrier, glands produce chemicals that cover the skin with a thin layer of acid. This stops most unwanted visitors from settling in. For some new arrivals, the acid film is instantly lethal. Others hang on, but they cannot gain a foothold. The prevailing acid environment favors the resident population of bacteria. It's not just the skin glands that defend planet U. The useful resident bacteria also help produce the acid conditions that they thrive in. This system works so well that normally there is no place for new arrivals. Planet U has another way to ensure bacteria stay in control. Skin particles are constantly shed along with their millions of microbe inhabitants. But even if these skin dwellers stay in place, this spells doom for them. soap and shampoo coat dirt particles and bacteria. They're removed from the skin and washed away. Our hygienic habits leave vast clearings on the surface of planet U. Potential new territory for colonizing bacteria. After a shower, the pH value has shifted to alkaline. For non-residents, this is the ideal moment to conquer new terrain on the skin. But they can only succeed if the resident bacteria are slow in recolonizing the gaps created by washing. This is a positive feedback loop. As they grow, the resident bacteria create the acidic environment that makes them thrive even more. If the skin is repopulated quickly enough, then invading organisms find it hard to colonize the surface of planet U. We only remain healthy if we have the correct ratio of certain permanent resident bacteria living on our skin. This composition of microorganisms can be very different from one person to another. Around 1,000 species of microbes have been identified inside human mouths, but as few as 100 live in one person's mouth at any given time. What makes up your particular menagerie of microbes depends very much on your habits and lifestyles. Sometimes, we have to do more than simply wait until the resident inhabitants of the human planet have reorganized themselves. If the surface defenses have been breached, the body immediately activates a multi-level emergency program. A rapid response is required. The body is now open to life forms that can destroy it. The cells of the damaged tissue release hormones, which increase the blood flow and so raise the local temperature. This warmth fires up the activity of white blood cells. They immediately start to absorb invading bacteria, viruses, or other unwanted visitors. They exist in different varieties for all kinds of invaders. Despite their hulking appearance, white blood cells are very mobile. And to increase their effectiveness, they have arm-like extensions that reach out to capture the invader microbes. This simple but effective form of defense is found in most animals. White blood cells talk whilst eating. They continuously give off specific messenger substances that summon others to the scene. Another channel of communication is established as soon as the white blood cells have digested the invader pathogen. Based on the intruder's chemical composition, they produce a molecular profile on their surface, enabling other cells of the immune system to identify the invader. This information calls a whole array of more specialized defense forces into action. They can attack the intruders at their weakest spots. It can take days until this tailor-made defense is in full swing. However, if the immune system has encountered the particular attacker before, the reaction is much faster. The immune system even attacks the cells of our own body that have been infected. These cells are killed to prevent the infection from spreading. But what happens at the spot where the intruders entered? Firstly, the severed blood vessel contracts to mechanically reduce the blood flow. Around the site of the injury, proteins react with the clotting agents in the blood. This causes the blood platelets to stick together. In this way, most minor cuts will stop bleeding in 1 to 3 minutes. Now, the actual clotting of the blood starts. A complex chain reaction involving 17 different proteins forms a dense net of fibrin strands. After another 6 to 10 minutes, the wound has been closed up with a blood clot. These fibrin strands are 1,000 times thinner than a human hair, but they're very elastic. Threads of fibrin can be stretched to 4 times their own length without breaking. On the outside, the injury is protected by a hard scab. The structure of the blood clot acts as a framework for the regeneration of tissue. Special cells gradually replace the fibrin mesh with a matrix made of collagen fibers. It It takes a couple of days for the top layers of the skin to be rebuilt. The tissue will continue to change over the coming months until it has been completely repaired and connective tissue and nerves restored. Despite its amazing ability for self-repair, the planet called You is in a constant state of emergency. It fights an endless battle against invading microbes that are capable of paralyzing, poisoning, starving, suffocating, or bleeding it to death. There is a war going on inside us, and most of the time, we don't even notice it. This complex confrontation is the result of the colonization by microbes, something that begins at the moment of birth. After spending the first 9 months in the sterile condition of the womb, we start to collect company in the very process of being born. This is the start of a lifelong sharing of your body with alien life forms. As we travel through the birth canal and later in the first contacts with the outside world, we're given a bacterial starter kit. Astonishingly, your body awaits these invaders with open arms. Newborns seem to welcome the first wave of immigrants by suppressing the immune reaction in their gut cells. If we are born the natural way, the unique composition of bacteria living on us is mostly passed on from our mother. Only a few places on the planet You should remain uninhabited, such as the brain, bladder, and the lungs. Every other conceivable niche is occupied by microbes. But why are we so attractive to these invaders? We are very adept at providing ourselves with energy-rich substances. When we eat, we don't just feed ourselves, but also more than 4 pounds of foreign microorganisms. Most of these cohabitants are directly connected to our energy intake, and they take their share at all stages of human digestion. It's not just our roommates that benefit from this. We do as well. Bacteria deliver vital substances through their activities. They process otherwise hard to digest sugar, starch, and cellulose. Attracted by the many opportunities we offer, new bacterial life forms constantly force their way into the human planet. Many of them can disrupt the inner workings of your body. But some of them carry the potential to destroy it. Salmonella, for example, can cause life-threatening poisoning. They're normally found in reptiles and birds. They can end up in our digestive tract through the shells of chicken eggs. Salmonella have a secret weapon. The bacteria form hollow, needle-like structures to penetrate the cell wall. They inject messenger substances, which reprogram the immune defense of the cells. Using this method, the salmonella can invade more easily. Dangerous invaders are often close relatives of useful microbes. E. coli is actually a peaceful sugar-digesting creature, which is also responsible for the production of vitamin K, essential for blood clotting. But some strains of E. coli bacteria produce powerful toxins, which can cause life-threatening diseases. Luckily, in most cases, the invasion fails for one simple reason. All niches are already occupied. Bacteria aren't very adaptable and don't survive very long if there's no space for them. The human body defends itself by having all seats in the house occupied, a form of defense called colonization resistance. But some of the intruders also come under direct attack from the resident bacteria population. Helicobacter pylori lives in the stomach of many humans. It has a bad reputation because of its involvement in gastric cancer. But Helicobacter can also be a blessing. Whenever alien bacteria try to settle down nearby, some Helicobacter seem to become suicide bombers. They digest themselves and release toxins that destroy the intruders. The helical stomach dwellers have accompanied humans for thousands of years. They probably play an important role for our health, but what that is remains a mystery. The tiny inhabitants of the human planet don't just decide the fate of individuals, they also have made history. In the year 1812, Napoleon set out on his Russian campaign, his aim to control Europe. 600,000 soldiers marched to subjugate the Tsar's empire. The plan failed and caused a humanitarian disaster. And a little inhabitant of the human planet played a major role in this. The soldiers had a lethal enemy in their field packs: the clothes louse. They were one of the main reasons most of the soldiers of Napoleon's army did not return home from Russia. Clothes lice carry Rickettsia bacteria, which cause typhus, also known as famine fever, or putrid fever. The extreme Russian winter made it easy for clothes lice to find new hosts. The men desperately tried to protect themselves from the cold with whatever they could find. A recently discovered mass grave near Lithuania's capital, Vilnius, has revealed the extent of the catastrophe. DNA analysis showed that a third of the soldiers suffered lethal diseases, transferred by the clothes lice. They made sure that out of the 600,000 soldiers, less than 1/3 made it home again. This was not the first time that our microscopic cohabitants dramatically changed the course of history. One of them even overturned the social order of the Middle Ages. Rat's fur is alive with parasites. Among them fleas that are not choosy when it comes to their hosts. When they get the chance, they'll change from animal to human. And medieval Europe was full of such opportunities. Through their bite, the rat fleas transfer deadly Yersinia pestis bacteria. To avoid the attacks of the immune system, these bacteria enter the interior of our body cells, where they can multiply undisturbed. Eventually, masses of plague bacteria flood the organs and blood. One of the consequences is the inhibition of blood clotting. Depending on the course of the disease, symptoms show in the lung or on the surface of the skin. Contact with sufferers will almost certainly lead to infection and death. In the mid-14th century, the Black Death killed 1/3 of the European population. More than 20 million people at the time. The consequences of this catastrophe brought an end to the Middle Ages. The depopulation of wide areas changed the structure of society on a very profound level. Land ownership was redistributed and the price of labor went up. Even the absolute monopoly of knowledge of the church was broken for good. For centuries, we associated the rat with death and decay. But this idea has now vanished from our collective memory. Nowadays, the most dangerous intruder to planet U takes another route. This is the most dangerous animal in the world. It brings death to more than 1 million people each year. The female Anopheles mosquito needs a big shot of blood protein for the eggs growing inside her. If earlier on she fed on an infected human, then malaria parasites are living inside her body. Now the parasites are flushed into their new host. They travel in the bloodstream until they find a suitable place to multiply. There, they will hide for months, sometimes years, without becoming active. Symptoms only show when masses of more mature malaria parasites enter the red blood cells. Only inside blood cells they can complete their development. When the parasites reach their next development stage, the invaded blood cells burst open. Toxins are released that cause the fever attacks typical for this illness. After 2 to 4 weeks, a new generation of parasites is ready to return to the mosquito, leaving the human planet in the same way they arrived. But most visitors landing on planet U come in peace. Many only accidentally land in this alien human world. Seen from up close, plant pollen come in the most amazing shapes. In spring and summer, they are everywhere. The pollen particles are microscopic, a mere 10 to 100 micrometers. They can drift anywhere. Which makes sense, because plants have to ensure through their vast numbers and tiny size of pollen that at least some grains will land where they're supposed to. If these particles land on planet U, in most cases, nothing spectacular happens. The human immune defense only reacts to potentially harmful intruders. Harmless pollen grains are treated as any other dust particle. They're disposed of by the mucus that lines our air intakes. But our immune system is designed to fight off all sorts of scary creatures. Without this legacy of immunity, the human species would never have survived. However, However, the chance of meeting one of these gruesome creatures is very low, especially if you live in Europe and North America. But our body is ready for all sorts of intruders. In some cases, apparently, the unchallenged immune system reacts in the wrong way. Pollen grains will then be treated like life-threatening attackers. Countless alien creatures tap into the vital functions of the planet that is you. Some of them are permanent and share our meals. For others, this human world is just a stopover. Some of them are making us more efficient. Others can kill us. Planet U is an incredibly complex system of mutual dependencies, and these are renegotiated every second. In this system, everyone can be somebody else's parasite. We humans host nematodes that host bacteria, that in turn host bacteriophages. When you look into this microscopic ecosystem, a completely new, strange world is revealed. This is the bacteriophage, and it measures 200 millionth of a millimeter, and looks like a lunar lander rather than a living creature. It's about to land on an E. coli bacterium, which in comparison appears to be gigantic.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, 20.
The futuristic phage injects its DNA into the bacterium and converts it into its own virus factory, thereby killing it. This ability of the bacteriophage is attracting attention from immunologists. As bacteria grow ever more resistant against antibiotics, these tiny bacteria eaters could be used as an alternative agent to fight infections. It's not just scientists that are looking into the almost untapped riches of the human ecosystem. This new perspective on the human body is also stimulating new ideas in art. With the support of the lab technician Eric Schopf, the artist Sonja Boemel has developed a unique way to visualize the invisible surface of the human body. She uses a gigantic Petri dish as a canvas, and the bacteria on her own skin surface as paint. After a few days, a fantastic landscape appears, created by the unique mixture of beings which existed at a certain point in time on the artist's body. As strange as it may seem, this is the ultimate metaphor for a new way of looking at ourselves. This human-sized Petri dish is like a magic mirror, revealing our true biological identity. We are only at the beginning of understanding how this fantastic symbiosis works. Each of us is a unique universe of life forms, all of them interconnected in trillions of ways. As humans, we can only survive in partnership with these alien organisms. Without them, even the most basic form of human existence would be impossible. We still have so much to learn about this unknown aspect of ourselves. Only when we know every inhabitant of planet U will we know who we really are.